do we have everybody that we're going to have for purposes of the meeting tonight and for the hearing?
As long as Sean's on the call, I think we do.
I'm here.
Sean's on.
Okay.
All right, so we'll start. My name is Harlan Stone. I'm the solicitor for the township, and I'm gonna read a quick opening statement before we take testimony and evidence into the record. First of all, notice of this hearing was advertised and the subject property posted pursuant to the requirements of the municipality's planning code, sometimes referred to as the MPC. As part of this hearing, exhibits 1 through 9 referenced on the exhibit list prepared by the township manager will be entered into the record of this hearing. The court reporter will insert those exhibits into the transcripts as if the exhibit list was read into the record. A conditional use hearing is nothing more than a zoning hearing conducted by the governing body, in this case, the township commissioners. Proceedings before the board are a public hearing. A public hearing is considered a quasi-judicial proceeding. A quasi-judicial proceeding has certain elements that are similar to a court hearing or a court proceeding. And the role of the board is to serve as a judicial body in deciding the applications that are before it. Some elements will resemble a court proceeding, or that will resemble a court proceeding, are the fact that there will be defined cases presented by the parties to the proceeding. There will be witnesses called and exhibits introduced, and all testimony will be given under oath. And I'll ask the court reporter to administer the oath in a minute. In addition, parties will have the right to cross-examine any individuals who are called as witnesses. And we'll cover that in a minute. To be considered a party before this proceeding, it will be necessary for an individual to enter their appearance here on the record. First of all, let me ask, is there anybody here attending tonight, participating in this Zoom hearing, that intends to be a party to the proceeding? If so, speak up now. Hearing none, we will continue on the assumption that there are no other parties. Since there are no other parties, I don't have to read the next part. At the conclusion of the case, when the board has made a final decision, all parties will be provided a copy of that decision. Since the board sits as a quasi-judicial body, the board may only consider the testimony and the materials presented or introduced during the hearing. The board is not permitted to take notice of any communications, reports, or other materials except advice from me. The applicants will shortly begin with their presentation. They go first. At the conclusion of the applicant's case, the board may ask any questions and any objectors may do any cross-examining that they wish to. Again, since we don't have any objectors appearing tonight, it doesn't look like we'll have any cross-examination. However, the board will have questions and can ask their questions at the completion of the applicant's case. Once the public hearing is concluded, the board will have 45 days to make a decision unless that time period is extended by the appellants. If the hearing is not completed tonight, the public hearing will be continued to a date and time announced by the board later in tonight's hearing. In that regard, what I would suggest and what I do typically in the case of a zoning hearing, which this is, that at the conclusion of the case, at the conclusion of the hearing, if we can, we close the record and we conduct an executive session. And during the executive session, I can get a feel for the whether we're going to be able to conclude the case tonight with a decision or whether we will need a more time or further hearing for a decision. And I think that's all the preliminaries. Let me make sure. I think that covers everything. So if there are, I know that we have two attorneys here tonight, Mr. Zinser representing his client, Mr. Carmody representing his client. And I'd like them to introduce themselves for the record, after which we can have all the witnesses sworn in by the court reporter. So Mr. Carmody and Mr. Zinser, why don't you enter your appearances?
Yes, my name is Adam Zinser. I am the attorney for the current property owner, Mr. Trapezzona.
My name is Sean Carmody, and I represent the prospective purchaser of Lot 1D. That's Advent Holdings, LLC.
All right. Anybody who intends to testify tonight, please raise your right hands and be sworn in by our court reporter.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God. Amen. Amen.
All right, Mr. Who's going to do the? We're in the conditional use hearing, so whoever's going to conduct the case for the applicant, whether it's Mr. Carmody or Mr. Zinser, please proceed.
Thank you, Harlan. Harlan, could you tell me, because I missed the part, what are the exhibits 1 through 9? That way I won't have to.
I'm sorry.
I won't have to offer them if they've already been in.
Sure. Let me read them. So the exhibits are these. Exhibit number 1 is a copy of the advertisement of tonight's hearing. Exhibit number 2 is the proof of publication. Exhibit number 3 are photographs of the posting of the property. Exhibit number 4 is the notice sent to the applicant. Exhibit number 5 is the conditional use application. Exhibit number 6 is the engineer's review letter. Exhibit number 7 is the recommendation letter from the Planning Commission. Exhibit number 8 are notices to the adjacent property owners. And exhibit number 9 is the R3 zoning district regulations that apply to the property.
Great. Before I call my first witness, I just wanted to sort of give an overview of what we are seeking as far as a conditional use. My client is Advent Holdings, LLC. It's made up of Mark Callahan, his wife, and Lance Hilliard. And they have an agreement to purchase Lot 1D of the Trapezzano plan of lots number 4. But that purchase is contingent upon approval of the subdivision by the Township Commissioners, as well as extending and recognizing the conditional use for Garage A on that parcel as being an accessory building to the repair shop and being permitted to use that building to store materials and park vehicles. By way of history, the first exhibit I'd like to offer would be an exhibit that's been provided by the township, and that is the August 14th, 1979 Commissioners' meeting notes regarding this parcel, as well as the July 26th, 1979 letter from the chairman of the Planning Commission to the Aleppo Township Commissioners recommending approval of a conditional use, as well as the July 10th, 1979 Planning Commission notes themselves. And basically, what that exhibit details is that back in August of 1979, a 6-acre parcel of this Trapezzano plan came before the Board of Commissioners to be a conditional use in an R3 zone to operate a commercial public garage. And the commissioners granted that use on that 6 acres, which we believe is shown on, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to share the screen, but I was told that you all have the plot plan that Gwen had provided that actually is color coded to sort of help everybody who is not familiar with the property. And in that plot plan, my clients are looking to purchase lot number 1D on the left-hand side, and that has 2 commercial buildings on it, 2 commercial garages. Garage B, which is in front, and I believe is yellow, and has been used as the commercial auto repair facility. And Garage A, which to my understanding, Mr. Trapezzano will testify, has been used to store vehicles and auto parts and things related to that principal business. Now, the subdivision that they're seeking is there are 5 structures on one lot. This subdivision will effectively separate the commercial structures on the left-hand side on lot 1D from the residential structures on the right-hand side, lot 2D. And so that's by way of history, and I'd like to offer that as our Exhibit A.
Well, I imagine there are no objectors and therefore no objections to the entry of those exhibits. So hearing none, they'll be admitted. And why don't we mark those as, since they're your exhibits, why don't we mark them A and B, applicants A and B.
And A will be the commissioners and planning commission information, and B will be the engineer drawing by, or the survey by Wacker Willis.
That's fine.
So since parcel B on the lot that we're looking at has always been an automotive repair shop, and parcel A has been used to warehouse the materials for there, my client is seeking a conditional use extended to that second structure in order to be able to house other materials, to house piping, to house toilets, to house things that he has a different business that needs storage, which is a plumbing business located in Swickly. He also would like a place to park his vehicles there at the end of the day. Now, that is what we're seeking as far as the conditional use. And we believe that the operation and allowing them to store those materials there, it's not going to endanger, when you look at the conditional use statute, it's not going to endanger the public health, safety, welfare. In fact, there's going to be no change to any structure and really no change to any uses. That's not going to create a nuisance, and Mark Callahan will testify as to how he's going to use the property or plans to use the property. It's not going to add any congestion. It's not going to add any noise. It's not going to add any glare. It's going to simply be a warehouse where they can then park their vehicles in front of their warehouse. It's consistent with the use that's been going on there for 40 years. It's consistent with the plan of the neighborhood. There being an auto repair shop right across the road, Meaner Auto Body. There being a timber sawmill right down Glen Mitchell Road. It's in the general conformity and it's compatible with the neighborhood. So at this time, I would like to ask Mark Callahan, I guess if he can step forward on the Zoom.
I'm here, Sean.
Okay, Mark. Mark, could you identify yourself for the commission?
My name is Mark Callahan. I'm the owner of Veteran Plumbing Services and owner and operator of Swickly Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling.
And Mark, do you also are an owner of Advent LLC?
That is correct. It's my wife and I.
Okay. Advent Holdings LLC.
Yes, sir.
And you signed a sales agreement to purchase lot 1D in the Trapezzano plan of lots number 4. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you want to continue to use building B on that lot to operate an automotive repair shop?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay. And who is going to run that automobile repair shop if you purchase the property?
Lance Hilliard, he's a mechanic that has 30 years. 21 years at Montneva Auto, and he will be coming in as our chief mechanic.
And does Mr. Hilliard currently service your vans and your truck and your equipment for Veteran Plumbing?
Yes, sir, he does.
And if he were installed there at the repair shop, would they continue to work on your vehicles and service your vehicles to repair?
Yes, it would make it much easier than what it is right now, yes.
Now, building A, which is the rear building, can you tell us what you want to store in that garage?
It would be different plumbing supplies from pipe, dealing with black iron gas line, ABS plastic, PVC plastic, copper for water lines, the new PEX for water lines, water heaters, HVAC equipment, furnaces, condensers and A coils, along with every other incidental ancillaries of both HVAC products and plumbing products, wax rings, Johnny bolts, valve supplies, things of that nature.
Now, that garage is about 5,000 square feet?
That is correct, sir.
And you're not going to be using that, you're not going to be doing any fabricating there, any putting things together. You're not going to be operating any type of manufacturing plant there, are you?
No, sir.
You're not going to be operating your plumbing business from there, are you?
No, sir.
Or you're not going to have any mail delivered there or signage on there regarding Veterans Plumbing?
No, sir.
Are you also planning on parking your vehicles there?
We would like to park our vehicles there, yes.
And can you tell the board approximately how many vehicles and the types of vehicles that Veterans Plumbing has?
Yes, currently we have 6 vans, 1 pickup, 3 box trucks, a cargo van, 2 trailers, a dump truck, and what is considered a mini excavator and a small skid steer.
And Mark, and you visited the site, correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
And is there enough space in and around that structure to store all that equipment without there being any type of problem?
Yes, there is ample space to store what we need to be stored, yes.
And now when you operate your business as quickly, why is it easy or necessary or make sense for you to have a place for everyone to park their vehicles and where to have your materials?
We purchased Swickley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling back in 2016. And since then, we've had to send every company vehicle home with our current employees because there is no parking down on Murray Street where we currently are. We are landlocked with no room to grow down there, and we've outgrown that building. So this parcel became available, and it will give us enough room to move into and to possibly grow for the next 5 or 10 years.
So you'll be able to store more and more materials. If your business becomes bigger, you can store all that equipment and materials there.
That is correct, sir.
Now, Mark, I'd like you to tell the board, so if they are going to warehouse materials there and park your trucks, can you explain for them what type of vehicle traffic will be coming in the mornings at what time and what time it would be leaving?
Some of our vehicles come into the road roughly about 6:30 in the morning. We have a contract down in Leedsdale at 7 in the morning. So anywhere from 6:30 to 6:45, we would have up to probably 6 to 7 vehicles come in, pick up the work trucks, head down to Leedsdale. Our plumbing division or side of that with the excavation, they start at 08 in the morning. So they would come in around 8 o'clock in the morning, pick up some material and head out to the job site roughly about anywhere between 8 and 8:30. And we are currently trying to get our guys to load their vehicles the night before. And if they can, head out to the job site first thing in the morning instead of bringing that traffic in. Now, on the flip side of that, when the day's done, our installers, which are doing appliances from the Leedsdale warehouse, they end their days anywhere from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till sometimes 7 in the evening, depending on how their day goes. And our plumbing and excavation division, they usually end their day roughly 4 to 5 o'clock. And if they're in a hard job, it might be a little bit later than that. And those vehicles are staggered throughout the afternoon. There's not like a massive influx of 12 or 14 vehicles trying to come in at once.
Okay. And can you tell me, Mark, how long have you been operating Veterans Plumbing?
Since May of 2014.
And that's a veteran-owned business?
Yes, sir.
And do you also try to employ vets?
Yes, we have, I think it's 34% veteran staff right now, and we are constantly looking to employ veterans that are struggling finding employment. And part of our vision is to offer them employment and allow them to have a living wage job in the trades and start a career so they can support themselves and a family.
Now, Mark, Advent Holdings LLC is going to be the purchaser. Will they then lease this storage space and parking to Veterans Plumbing?
That is correct.
And then on the other side, Advent would then lease the Garage A. There goes my lights, Harlan. I told you that would happen. So then they would lease the front to Mr. Hilliard to operate and be the primary mechanic for the repair shop.
That is correct also, sir.
And I'm assuming, and we can ask Mr. Hilliard, but there would be normal hours to continue as they do now to operate the repair shop.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And Mark, in having any supplies delivered to that warehouse, how many days a week and what types of vehicles would you envision doing that?
It may be once or twice a week from a supply house. That could be a small box truck up to possibly a stake body bringing in pipe. Lengths of pipe are usually 20-foot lengths. So something along that line. We do get some UPS and FedEx trucks, but they currently deliver things up to the Trapezanos currently now, so I don't see an issue with that. But basically once or twice a week, we would probably have a supplier bringing, whether it's pipe or water heaters or toilets or faucets or something in like that.
So you will continue to operate your business in Swickley, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what's the address of that? Your office?
605 Murray Street, Swickley, PA 15143.
And you would not be operating your business out of this Aleppo Township, but you'd be leasing that just to warehouse materials and store your vehicles.
That is correct.
Mark, I don't have any other questions for you, but some people on the board may.
Do you have any other witnesses?
I do. I was going to ask Mr. Trapezzano some questions just for historical purposes.
Okay, why don't we open it then before we do that? Or maybe we should have him testify first and then open it to questioning from the board.
Sure. Mr. Trapezzano, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Sean.
So are you familiar with the plan to subdivide these parcels into two separate parcels, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And on parcel 1D, there are two garages. One is the auto repair garage and the other is the garage directly behind it, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Trapezzano, have you been one of the owners of the entire Trapezzano parcel?
Yes, original owner, yes.
And how long has that been, sir?
Since around 79 or 80.
Okay. And the records show us in 1979, it was approved to use that garage B, we're calling it, as an auto repair shop.
That
Do
is
you recall that?
Yes.
And are you familiar with whether or not that's been an auto repair shop from 1979 up until the present?
The whole time, yes.
Now, you're familiar with the garage behind it we're calling Garage A, correct?
Correct.
And can you tell us, sir, how has that been used and what's been stored in that place over the years?
Sure. At one time, for many, many years, we had a large, heavy-duty towing and recovery company, and I stored all my equipment in there. It was all stored because there's a great value in that equipment, and they were huge trucks, and they were all stored in that back garage, just like Mr. Callan wants to store his equipment in there. We never
Okay.
worked out of there or anything. It was just strictly storage.
Okay. And so you stored equipment that would be used in the towing and the wrecker and the repair business, but more on the towing end of that side?
Correct.
And is that how that entire parcel, and that parcel was really almost 4 acres, but was that area encompassing the 6 acres that the original conditional use covered?
Yes.
I really don't have any further questions for you, Mr. Trapezzano.
Okay.
Okay, since there are no objectors, I assume there's no cross-examination as such, and therefore this would be an appropriate time for the commissioners to ask any questions they have of either Mr. Callahan or Mr. Trapezzano.
For Mr. Callahan, what is the anticipated location of the cars that would come to the site in the morning from your plumbing crews that come in to pick up their vehicles? I assume those cars would be parked there all day?
Yes, sir. They would drop them off in the morning, gain access to the company vehicle. And then when their workday was done, they would come back in with the company vehicle, pick up their personal vehicle and leave the property site.
With regard to the repair business, what is the anticipated operating hours and volume and parking of the vehicles that are there for repair?
From what I understand, when I talked to Mr. Hilliard, usually starts around 9 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes works till about 6 in the evening, 6:30, maybe 7, depending on how the workload is. And there are periodical times when a customer would come in and drop the vehicle off in the evening. So a customer would have access to the property to drop a vehicle off with a key slot. And then we would pick the vehicle up in the morning and start working on it. So I think from my conversation with Mr. Hilliard, probably no more than 10 vehicles stored on the mechanics side, from my understanding, sir.
Where on the property would they be stored?
Around the, is it building B, I believe, the actual current mechanic shop?
Whatever it's called, I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, right in that area, sir.
Okay, that's for me, thank you.
Any other commissioners with questions?
I originally had concerns about the fleet of vehicles, so thank you for the breakdown of everything that you had listed there. And with what you listed, and I understand the employees coming, and leaving their vehicles and taking those. So I'm assuming there's at least room for 25, 30 parking spaces there.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Does that allow for any, do you plan on increasing, or does that seems like a lot of spaces on that lot for just in my brain, does it allow you any room at all?
Yes, there's ample room to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish.
Okay. And then just a question about the garage. So what it's currently being used for is storage for the repair shop, but wouldn't a operating repair shop doing, a 10-car volume require additional storage? Is there a possibility for them to then be storing things outside that would cause an eyesore or things? If there's a business there now using it for storage, where would they use storage, I guess?
I understand your question. Each building is approximately 6,000 square foot. more than ample enough to do the workload that we currently are anticipating, with some future growth that would not impede or have anything on the outside that would cause an eyesore to the community or anything like that. So each building is ample enough to handle what we intend to use it for.
Okay.
Signage, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Betty. This is George.
Yeah.
Can you review this site in the application?
It's hard to hear you, George. Can you repeat yourself? It was echoing.
Can you hear me?
Oh, you're blurry.
You're
Try turning your volume down, George. Might have been a lot of feedback.
What I just did. Does that work at all?
yes,
Perfect.
much better.
Okay. And have you reviewed the site and the application?
Yes, I have.
Any difficulties?
Just this land use issue is the only outstanding issue that we'd have. There is a subdivision part of this. Obviously, if the land use issue isn't addressed, the subdivision can't be approved. But if the land issue is addressed, then the subdivision is fine and it's good to go.
And did you see any issues with access to the property for moderately sized equipment?
Based on what has been described tonight, no.
And I think I understood there'll be no signage.
That's my understanding based on the testimony.
Is that true, Mark?
Yes, sir.
I think I can answer that, George. There'll be no signage for the plumbing, warehouse, or anything of that nature. In operating the repair shop, any signage that currently exists or any signage that would comply with the township ordinance, they may look to have that done. I don't know what is there now. There's going to be nothing for the warehouse, but for the auto repair shop, I'm not sure what signage is there or is permitted there now, but they may seek to have a sign or upgrade their sign if there is one.
And no visible parking in the access road?
No, sir.
Thanks.
I have just a couple questions before we take an executive session, but what about lighting? What kind of lighting do you anticipate, Mr. Callan?
There is some outdoor lighting currently on the outside of the buildings. The only thing I would like to do in the future is upgrade that to make it more environmentally cost effective. We're not looking to put any poles up or any type of extra lighting. The lighting that is currently there, I believe, is suitable for what we're doing. And the only thing we may add is a security camera system on the corners of the buildings just to track the comings and goings of vehicles.
What about garbage collection and rubbish pickup? What kind of arrangements do you have for commercial or industrial waste collection?
We are with Joseph Bruner that picks up our refuge down on Murray Street. I believe they will come up to the lot. And I also know that Mr. Trapezzano has a current dumpster container up there that gets picked up once a week. Our refuge gets picked up once a week where we're at. And I don't foresee it being anything more than that. Just a normal size refuse truck coming up and picking up the dumpster and dumping it once a week.
And again, whatever arrangements are made in that regard would comply with the current township ordinances.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I had. And just so we're clear, as far as your business is concerned and the use of the accessory garage, there would be no signage associated with that.
No, sir.
So whatever signage we need to anticipate, it would come from the the commercial garage.
The automotive side, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, as I said before, I would suggest that we adjourn into an executive session. I'd like to address some of the legal matters with the members of the Board of Commissioners and to lay out for them what their options are with regard to making a decision. So that said, if there's nothing else, I'll count on Dave to do the magic and create a Zoom executive session. Again, hearing none, we will close the record and go into executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.
session, and we are now back in the public portion of the meeting. We have closed the record, and we will ultimately adjourn the hearing, but the board is unable to reach a decision tonight. They want to consider what some of the options and what some of the conditionals or conditions might be suitable for the property, if any. And so they've asked for the time till their next workshop meeting, which is also a public meeting, and they will announce their decision at their December workshop meeting. And accordingly, there probably should be a motion to that effect. And there also needs to be a motion to table the related subdivision plan application also to be considered and decided at the December workshop meeting. So if
And
someone
those
wants
motions
to,
are on the agenda for the regular business.
I'm sorry, Gwen, what?
Those motions are listed on the agenda for in the legislative meeting that we're going to start as soon as this hearing is over.
Okay,
So they'll be prompted, the board will be prompted to make those motions during the regular meeting.
great. Any questions from Mr. Carmody or from Mr. Zinser? Any questions about the procedure?
Can you tell me when the date is for the workshop meeting?
Gwen,
Yes.
when is it?
December 14th,
Second,
Monday, December 14th at 7 p.m.
And will that be a Zoom meeting or will that be an in-person meeting?
To be determined, but I'm thinking we're leaning towards Zoom at this point. Just kind of where everything's headed.
Okay. And at that meeting, will there be a decision both on the simple subdivision as well as the conditional use application?
Yes, that's what I understand the desire or the wish of the board.
Okay.
One other thing for you, Mr. Carmody and Mr. Zinser. We've discussed this before, but there is a pending sheriff's sale of the property, I think on December 6th. I trust that the two of you will work out whatever arrangements you need to postpone or continue that procedure.
Yeah, I've been in constant contact with the attorney representing the school district on the sheriff's sale. He's aware of the proceedings that we've been going through over the past couple of weeks. So I'll make a phone call to him immediately tomorrow and let him know where we're at. And he has indicated there will be no problems in postponing the pending sheriff's sale.
Good. Okay. So with that, the hearing is concluded. The record's concluded. We can go, the court reporter, unless there's any other business, there will be a decision announced at the December 14th meeting of the Township Commissioners. And if there's no other business, the court reporter can end her recording and transcribing of the proceedings, and the township can go into its regular public meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
All they do is just drag stuff on.
Harlan, do we have a Lindy presentation?
We do.
That'll be in the regular meeting.
Okay. So therefore, I call to order the Aleppo Township Commissioners Meeting of November 16th, 2020 at 7:56 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance will avoid since we're not in a room. Roll call, please.
President Jones,
Present.
Vice President Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Dara,
President,
Commissioner Richard,
Present.
Commissioner Haluka is not able to join us tonight, and Solicitor Stone.
Here.
Harlan, would you do what's required in regard to the remote meeting?
Yeah, sure. So as in our workshop meeting, tonight's meeting is being conducted in accordance with the governor's emergency declaration and the related state law, which allows for public meetings during the COVID crisis to be conducted remotely, provided adequate advertising and other rules are followed. We have complied with all of the necessary rules as far as notice and providing for public participation and for notifying the public after our meeting by the posting of minutes. All that said, we are in compliance with the governor's order and the related state legislation.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve the November 9th workshop meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, aye, aye. All opposed? Motion approved. Are there representatives from Lindy here now, Harlan?
I believe they are.
Would anybody object to moving that up on the agenda? We can begin that hearing. Is there a presentation for Lindy, Cass?
What happened, Gwen? What happened to the Lindy people?
They're here. They're here.
Okay.
Hi.
All right, there he is.
So good evening, guys. I am the project manager for this project for Lindy, this merger project of two facilities into the Aleppo Township 503 facility. I have invited the architectural and engineering firm here, Greg Gorman and Rocco Magrino, to represent the presentation for this merger project. So I will give the floor to Greg Gorman to move that forward.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so we are here tonight seeking final approval for the land development plan for Lindy Gas. And I'm going to share a screen here and show you the site plan. Just one moment, please. Currently, Lindy Gas is operating out of the facility. Of the 3 units within the building, they are occupying 2 of them. They recently took over the middle unit, and these site improvements are in an effort to accommodate their expanded operations on site. On the site plan, you'll see the proposed improvements to the site highlighted in various colors. Green being the fence to be installed around the perimeter, as well as gates. The first gate being a sliding card operated gate here. The second gate being a double swing gate at this location. Other improvements include concrete frost protected slabs to accommodate gas storage facilities, as well as pallet racking system, all of which are properly located inside of the proper setbacks, given the zoning district C2 commercial industrial. And additionally, there is an expansion approximately 3 to 4 foot wide and 120 foot long of the existing asphalt pavement. This accommodates an 18-foot wide continuous fire lane around the entirety of the facility. And the final improvement is a stormwater rain garden to accommodate these expanded and reconfigured impervious areas on the site. That encapsulates all of the improvements intended for the site, and all of which have been made following applicable codes within the township. And I'd be happy to take any questions or comment further as you wish at this time.
Is is all of this work been put out for contract? Is it that far along?
Yes, the work has gone out to bid.
And what time is the work at the site going to be planned?
The work is scheduled to begin as soon as we have the approvals from the board.
Yep.
I think there are no further comments right now.
Questions?
I have a couple quick ones. One, just want to point out, I've talked to Gwen about this, Ben, but Ben, are you still on?
I am.
So it didn't seem to, so we have our usual conditions on our plan approvals. They involve a developer's agreement, a form satisfactory to the engineer and myself. We usually require that work begin within a certain period of time and be completed within a certain period of time, and that there be compliance with all the other ordinances of the township. And it's a relatively standard approval letter. My sense is that since you're really not building anything, although technically these do constitute structures under our ordinance, but you're not really doing any major building or construction. So my sense is that a developer's agreement in this situation is pretty much moot. Ben, what's your thought?
I would have no objection to that approach if you're okay with it. The only real infrastructure that's being proposed, and all infrastructure being proposed, is private and will be owned and operated and maintained by the facility. So it's really the stormwater and a little bit of paving. So I don't think there's really any, if as a solicitor you feel that it's okay to proceed without one, I'd have no objection.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any requirement for bonding, for example. I don't see public improvements, any of the things we would normally be looking for with a developer's agreement. So I think it's kind of, moot, not necessary, I would say. What about the other conditions that we usually impose, like a start and a completion date for any construction?
Again, I think construction is minor, and it sounds like they're ready to proceed based on approvals. And I don't see any improvements or construction here that, if left undone, would become a detriment to the township.
I agree. I think this is pretty straightforward. I'd say this for the benefit of the commissioners. And again, you know what your options are as far as approving, denying, or approving subject to conditions. But in this particular situation, it looks like they've met the requirements. And I think a straightforward approval without conditions, even though it's unusual, is probably the appropriate decision here.
Well, should it at least still be conditioned that it be done in accordance with all applicable rules, regulations, local and state and federal requirements?
Yeah, that would be part of my decision letter, Commissioner Dara.
Okay. Well, that being said, it sounds to me like it's appropriate to act on this at this point. So I'll make a motion that we approve the Lindy Gas renovation land development plan.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes contingent upon appropriate agreement.
Thank you for your time this
gentlemen.
evening.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Is there a police report, Glenn?
Yeah, Chief Hanny is actually here at the meeting. If he's
Hello, Chief Annie.
Good evening, all. I was
Evening, Chief.
muted, just listening to all the public access stuff going on there. Good information. Sure. So for the month of October, relatively quiet, 55 EMS assist with a total of 72 calls total. As I always say in every meeting, but since the last one, please lock the vehicles, keep your valuables. We had a stolen vehicle not shortly thereafter our last meeting out of one of our other jurisdictions. It was recovered, but the people left the keys in the car and it happens. But I always feel compelled to throw that out there. So other than that, if anybody has any questions. No?
No.
Okay. All right. I know we did meet with Amazon again, and I'm sure the commissioner will elaborate on that, but that's an ongoing every month meeting.
Any suggestions for us, Chief?
No, sir. Nope. We're on track. Aleppo's being very responsive, I believe, and they understand the issues and all the things that are going on there. And I think the monthly meetings are definitely helping getting the issues addressed.
Okay, any other comments?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Fire,
no report.
emergency management.
The only thing that I have is from Judy, and she wanted us to talk about possibly closing the building to the public again, given that the numbers are spiking.
Yeah.
And so I just said that I would mention that, and I think it sounded like she was in favor of us doing that, but I didn't know if you wanted to do that now, or you wanted to wait a little bit, or what your thoughts were.
What are your feelings?
We don't have a ton of foot traffic, but any exposure is exposure. We have noticed that everyone, short one or two people that come in, they do wear masks, and we do appreciate that. And we have our masks on when anybody comes in as well. So.
Was Judy fairly firm in her advice?
I haven't been able to get that. So, I think that we could talk about it a little bit, and then if that is the way that we choose to go, we would post the building. It goes on the website. It'll go on that emergency pop-up box, and it'll just basically be reverting to the procedures that we had in the spring.
Okay, well, I think this would be an appropriate time. Judy, if we're fortunate enough that you're listening, keep getting some good rest, and we look forward to you coming back.
Definitely.
Any other emergency management information?
No.
Public Works?
We have the Public Works report for the past month. They've been working on equipment. They've been doing a lot of painting and touching up one of the trucks, truck number 57. We're doing some rust repairs. We planted new mums out in the township beds, and we dug out some old bushes, and the deer have already come along and eaten all of the tops of the mums. So they were lovely for about 4 days, and now they're gone. They're just bald. It is leaf blowing season, so they've been doing a lot of keeping the roads clear of leaves, and there have been some dead animals. They did a lot of work getting set up for voting, getting the garage set up for the elections. And they've been working on cleaning up. There was a large truck accident on Deer Run Road a couple of weeks ago, and they've been cleaning up all the trees that were damaged in that accident. So that's what they've been working on.
Thank you. Any questions? Communications.
This seems to be where I continue to report out on our Amazon meetings. So just to recap, our last meeting, we discussed signage that they had on back order actually, and that they were looking to get done at a different place because the timeline wasn't going to work. And that's for the sign at the end of North Avenue there. For a turning for the trucks. We also revisited the reimbursement for some of the costs from the township from the tractor trailer incident going down Redgate. And then we also addressed lighting issues that we had a citizen complaint of, and there was mobile lighting, the temporary lighting that they have that sits a little lower, obviously. And they said they were going out to turn those. We provided them pictures to help with them repositioning it. And so we took care of that. And then we gave them the typical reminders for speeding and discussed that as we do every time. And then trash also. And they were scheduled for the Wednesday before for a trash pickup up Deer Run. So they continue to put that on their monthly agenda. Sometimes they've been doing it twice a month, though. They have their crews. They have extra guys on a Wednesday for a reason I can't remember, I believe for meeting purposes, and they send them out to do the trash pickup up Deer Run. And that was the summary of that meeting.
Any questions for Amy?
I have we did receive a resident email, and I didn't know if you wanted to go back to doing the procedure of like reading or, bringing up the resident emails. And I have it here if you want me to do it.
Sure,
Amy.
please do.
Yeah, thank you.
So we had an email from a resident on McCoy Place, and she was suggesting that the township take up the idea of culling the deer population in our municipality in order to contribute to food banks and local shelters. And she shared a Post-Gazette article about other communities that are doing that, like having hunters do it for a meat source. And she just wanted to know how she would bring it up with the board. So I've told her that I would bring it up here. I did write back to her and give her some of the history of the fact that we have discussed it in different ways in the past and had tried to bring in a hunting group, but they ended up declining to participate in a culling program here, and that we had gotten some feedback from the community, and it was about equally split on whether or not there were people very opposed and people very in favor. And so in the past, the board had decided to just kind of table the issue and really not develop a culling program. But I just wanted to bring this up in case you had something different to say.
I think if anyone hears of some creative programs or has any good ideas, they can bring it up at the next workshop meeting. It has been discussed quite a bit before.
Mm-hmm.
Any other emails? I'm sorry, Amy.
I was just saying thank you, Gwen, for reading that, for sharing.
No, I don't have anything else. I didn't get anything else.
Okay. Planning zoning, we've made the motion for Lindy.
So
We need to,
table the Trapezono amended conditional use application.
yeah, do we have to have two motions, Harlan?
No, you can do it in one motion, just a motion to announce a decision at the workshop meeting in December regarding the conditional use application and tabling the related subdivision plan application.
Somebody like to author that?
So moved.
Perfect.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Tax collector treasurer.
I have Clay's report. You have it in your packet. What would you like me to read? You want me to read balances, or do you just want to?
Everybody has a copy.
Everybody has a copy. The net operating funds are similar to last month. We collected a little bit of property tax, a very small amount of delinquent real estate tax. We got a chunk of earned income tax this month and some local services tax. So for October of 2020, we collected $23,805.87 in taxes. And we are, for the year to date, we are short $32,610.98 from the 2020 budget, but we have 2 more months to go. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to at least meet or exceed our budget for 2020.
I think just a side comment, we can talk about this more in 2 later agenda items, but Ben and I have gone over the 2020 year to date in pretty good detail in preparation for the 2021 budget, which I guess you all received this afternoon. And I think we're fortunate we haven't had any major revenue impacts or any surprise expenses that we didn't anticipate. But again, I think we can discuss that in more detail after you've all reviewed the budget draft. Is that it for tax collector treasurer, Gwen?
It is. We actually skipped something under planning and zoning, though.
I'm going back.
Okay.
So the ASO Joint Comprehensive Plan.
Yes, we're in the public comment period now. And so the link with the story map that everybody saw during the presentation is now available to the public for comment. And that link is published in 2 places on our website. It's under public notices. We have a chart for public notices every time we advertise or have a public notice. We put it there, and it's also on the planning and zoning page. So if people would like to go and review that ASO Joint Comprehensive Plan and then provide any comments, Carolyn Yeagle, the consultant, her contact information is there on both sites on there. So any comments would be directed to her. And that comment period, we're expecting to close on December 17th. There may be a hearing, the final public hearing on December 17th, where she would incorporate any of the comments and take any last comments. And then it should be on the December legislative meeting for the board to approve the plan. That's the tentative schedule.
Any public comments to date?
Not through me.
Okay, any further discussion of the ASO plan? Then we'll move to, can I hear a motion to approve the October bill list, et cetera?
Move that we approve the October bill list in the amount of $53,365.19. By the October prepaid bills in the amount of $24,026.58. And to ratify October payroll transfers in the amount of $15,344.70.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. When the 2021 budget draft.
So this afternoon, you got the hot off the presses budget draft for 2021. Like George said, we've been working on it. We met a couple of times to discuss the different line items that change from year to year. And so what you have there is the transmittal that explains and hits some of the highlights. And then you have the short form budget, which is just the summary page. And then you have the full detailed line item budget. So I'll just go over a couple of the items in that. And then I'm going to ask that the commissioners look at it and get back to me with any comments or questions you may have about the budget. And it will be advertised for adoption at the December legislative meeting. So we adopt the budget by ordinance. So we have to advertise it and then have the ordinance setting the millage and adopting the budget itself. And that'll happen in December. So for 2021 coming up, property tax is proposed to stay the same. So there is no proposed increase in the millage for 2021. I know that's everyone's favorite announcement. The earned income tax collections have increased slightly. So we've increased the budget by about $5,000 for 2021. So we're on track. Local services tax has increased a little bit more, and local services tax is charged to anyone who works in the township. So all the staff get charged it, and everybody works in the industrial park gets charged this tax. It's $39 a year. And we're sure that the increased occupancy rate and the increased employees over in the industrial park are what's driving that increase in the local services tax collection. So that's budgeted to increase by $7,000 for next year. And we, back in 2009, I think it was, the board adopted a policy to share 1/3 of that collection with the Aleppo Township Volunteer Fire Company. So that's budgeted that they would get their third. I put a number in the budget, but it's based on actual collections. Interest earnings are a little low, and that's, we think, COVID related. We are hopeful that that's one of the few areas that are going to impact Aleppo as far as COVID situations. We, I guess you could say, are fortunate that our township doesn't have a lot of restaurants or retail or other service businesses that had to endure a shutdown during this pandemic. So our revenues have been able to stay relatively steady. So we're hopeful that that will continue for next year. And interest earnings are down a little bit, but that's not the largest part of our budget by far anyway. Transfer from other funds. Our 2019 audit showed that we underspent by $124,000. So per our policy of the last couple of years, we take that leftover money from the most recently completed audit and plug it into the following year budget. So there's a 1-year gap in between. We get the 19 information in 20, and then we put it in the budget for 2021. So we've done that for a couple of years, and that that's listed in the budget as a revenue that but I always want to caveat that by saying that we don't have guarantees that we will have a surplus from year to year in the audit. So that's a line item that we always have to evaluate every year. We can't always count on that being there because we could have a year where we end up overspent. So it's just always be mindful of that as not a tax revenue or another guaranteed revenue. For expenditures, things are coming in pretty close to budget in a lot of categories. And so we're looking to finish out the year with hopefully slight underspend again. That's always the goal. You don't want to blow all your money. So for the expenditures for 2021 that are proposed, legal fees and engineering fees are proposed to stay the same. We had a lot of plans that were built. So we had a lot of reimbursable expenses this year that passed through the legal and the engineering line items. And then at the end of the year, we clean all that up so it doesn't look like both our solicitor and our engineer overspent their budget. It's all cleaned up by the end of the year. And a lot of those costs that are billed by them are then passed on to developers or the industrial park if they're planning to do proposals. So all the plan review costs, say for lots 12 and 14, that all the expenses that were incurred by Harlan's review and Ben's review is then passed on to the industrial park, to the applicant. So a lot of that money is passed through. Not a lot. There are no large paving projects planned for 2021. So in the budget, you'll see money set aside to go toward the paving project savings account, which is the capital improvements account and the capital improvements fund. So this year we budgeted $83,000 to go into that to continue to grow that, then we will determine in the spring if there are smaller projects that can be done. If they are, they don't necessarily have to come from the revenues because we have it set aside in that capital improvements fund. So we have funding for paving if there does appear to be a project that we want to do this year. Truck fund, continuing to budget the $27,000 a year that goes into the truck fund to fund trucks and other equipment purchases. So Public Works may come to us with something to you for some kind of equipment purchase, but again, that would come from the truck fund that's already been set aside and established as a savings account for that. So, I mean, those are the highlights. And like I said, you have the summary budget, and then you have the full line by line budget. So if you could look it over and get back to the Finance Committee with any comments or questions, we'll be on track for an adoption in December.
I might point out one thing, Gwen, and perhaps you can elaborate on this. Over the years, it appears that the township has assumed more responsibility for storm sewers. We have one project that was discussed prior that we're addressing. So Gwen and I have decided that it's probably appropriate, it is appropriate, to to begin setting aside a reserve fund for storm sewers separate from sanitary sewers. So you'll see, I believe it was $50,000 this year.
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of a new expense that we're faced with. And an HRG, again, and you can elaborate. I've asked him to do more or less a 20-year plan, or at least a discussion about the extent of our liabilities with storm sewers, so we can put a budget against it, so that we can begin to appropriately set aside reserves. So Ben, you are in the process of analyzing our storm sewer situation.
We are. We're looking at, I'll say that the known stormwater issues, trying to get a condition and ranking similar to, you know, kind of a less detailed initiative is the roads plan, but still kind of get an idea to the township as to where their liabilities are, high level cost of what those liabilities could cost to get repaired. And then we've discussed a couple funding approaches, the main one trying to be more active in grant funding to address some of these issues.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
Gwen, where is that reserve show in the budget?
The stormwater reserve?
Yeah. Or is it new?
It is new. It's on page 5 of the long form budget at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I hope everybody takes a look at the budget draft and gets back to Gwen with any comments. Any further discussion of the budget now? Okay, Aleppo Township Authority.
But Gwen, I would note, I have no further comments with regard to the draft 537 plan.
Okay.
Any questions for the authority? Quaker Valley Ambulance Authority.
No report.
Quaker Valley COG.
No report.
Mr. Solicitor, and before you begin, we're all very sorry to hear of your father's passing.
Yep.
We hope that you will survive it like all of us do.
Well, let me say thank you for everyone and for your thoughts. I guess it's appropriate to mention that my dad was the township solicitor for many years. I'm sometimes inclined to say I think he might have been your first solicitor, but I don't think he was that old. But he certainly served many years, and it's how I became involved myself. And you know, we'll miss him. But I told my mother, hey, he gave us 94 good years. So 94 years.
God bless.
That's pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. I don't have anything else other than the business at the hearings tonight. So I'll pass on the rest of it.
Okay, thank you. Any unfinished business? Ben, are we working on weight limits for McCoy? Or did I get that wrong?
No, we're looking to get the township an idea what it would cost in the level of effort to put a weight limit on McCoy. Weber. I'm sorry.
I do it. Any other unfinished business? New business, the annual board and commission openings renewals.
So every year, terms are up on the various things like planning commission and zoning hearing board. And so we send out letters to the people currently sitting in those positions on the boards and ask them if they are interested in renewing their seat. So we also are willing, have always announced it publicly. So if anybody else wants to step up and throw their hat in the ring for it, they can do that also. So at the planning commission, we have a 4-year term. And the authority has a 5-year term that's ending. Zoning Hearing Board has a 3-year term, and the vacancy board chair is a 1-year term. So letters went out today to the people whose terms are expiring, asking them if they're interested in re-upping their positions on these boards. And then if anybody else wants to apply, all parties should send a letter to my attention at the township, and I'll bring them up to you in the December meeting.
Is there a listing of those openings on our webpage?
There is not, but there can be.
I think that would be a good idea. And of course, anybody listening, if you're interested, please contact Gwen. All right, Gwen, have you received any citizen participation?
I have not.
We've been through the executive summary. Unless there's further discussion, we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Have a
Thanks,
good night.
everybody. Pretty long meeting.
Bye.